But now I'm before you, kneeling down in pain. Lord, I'm not the best of anything, and you know just how often I have failed. But if you still need me, I promise I'll do the best I can. Lord, I'll go. Yes, Lord, I will go. Oh, Jesus, if you still want me, if you still need me, and if you still help me, yes, Lord, I'll go. If you still try me, and if you stick by me, oh Jesus, Lord, yes, Lord, Lord, I thought that you wanted someone more gifted, someone much smarter, someone stronger than me. And I still have a problem, cause I know I'm not worthy to be your chosen vessel. But yet you're calling me. Tell me how can this be? Lord, you know I'm not the best of anything. You already know just how often I have failed. But if you still want me, love, I promise I'll do the best I can. Lord, I'll go. Yes, Lord, I will go. I told him, if you still want me, if you still need me, if you still have me, yes, Lord, I'll go. Yes, I will. If you still try me, if you stay by me, oh Jesus, I'll go, Lord. Yes, Lord, I'll go. I told the Lord, if you still want me, if you still want me, Jesus, if you still need me, Lord, and if you still have me, yes, Lord, I'll go. Yes, I will, Lord, if you still try me, dear Jesus, if you will stay by me, oh Lord, Lord, I'll go. Yes, I will. Yes, Lord, I'll go. Oh, yes, I will, Lord. I'll go, Lord. Yes, I will. Yes, Lord, I'll go. Lord, I'm coming to you just as I am. I'll go, Lord. Yes, Lord. I never had a lot, but the little bit I have, Lord, I give it to you. I'll go, Lord. Yes, I will. Yes, Lord. Whatever you want me to do, and wherever you want me to go, Lord, I surrender. I'll go, Lord. Yes, I will. Yes, Lord. I'm sold out to you, Lord. I'll go. Yes, Lord. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. How in the world are you? I pray that you're having an amazing day because I am having well, I don't know if it's a pity party or a praise party, but right now I'm just feeling the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living, and I am excited for what God is doing, in this season. We are moving steadily forward into this place God has created just for us. And the exciting part is we are seeing what it's beginning to look like as we approach this season God is putting us in. I pray that you are having a great, 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 great day. And I greet you in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus the Christ, who is the creator, the maker of every good and perfect thing. He has protected us and brought us to this place for this very reason right now. So I'm here to share with you the biblical principle of the day. And today I have one that is really exciting because I think I'm going to talk to me today. Is that okay? Would it be okay if I share this with you? But I think I need to talk to me today because God is moving in such an amazing way that this morning I heard God say, you can run, but you can't hide. You know what you've been chosen to do. Now get it done. How does God deal with us when we are disobedient? And a lot of times the disobedience is not intentional, nor are we trying to figure out a way not to do it. Sometimes fear just creeps in us and we just don't get it done. But God said you can run, but you can't hide. That's the principle for the day. Write that one down. You can run, but you can't hide because God can see you everywhere, no matter what it looks like. Let's talk about that today, okay? Let's just dive right into this principle today. And when he said that, he took me to the book of Jonah, and I read Jonah's story again and again and again. And when God called Jonah to leave his home in Israel and travel northeast to Nineveh, and his purpose was to preach to the city's wicked residents, Jonah fled from this divine assignment by going in the opposite direction towards Tarshish. How many times have we ran from God by just not being obedient, but looking someplace else other than God? As a true prophet, and trust me, Jonah was a true prophet. He knew God, and he recognized that God was going to be merciful. He's going to be gracious. He's going to be slow to anger and abounding in love. And all of this was toward a group of people that Jonah didn't like. So he wasn't about to go down there and share this beautiful God that he served with people he didn't care anything about. But we don't get to make that choice when God sends us on a mission. We get the opportunity to be obedient, to obey God, to do what God called us to do, and leave the results up to him. Jonah did not want to give the citizens of Nineveh, people that I hate to use the word hated, but that some instances that he hated them, and he did not want to give them an opportunity to repent and experience God's mercy, so he ran in the opposite direction. You can run, but you can't hide from God. When God puts it on you to get it done, you are going to do it or else. The Bible tells us when we read this story of Jonah, before we get over here to Pastor Allen and a few other people we know, that Jonah went to Tarshish in an effort to escape the presence of God. How silly is that if you read the book at all? Jonah, excuse me, Jonah knew his assignment. He knew what he was supposed to do. He knew where he was supposed to go. But because he despised the people so much, he refused to go. I'm not going to share this good news with them. I'm not going to share this gospel with them. I'm not going to give them an opportunity to experience this wonderful God that I know. Can you hate somebody that much that you refuse to share the goodness of God with them? You refuse to tell them how Jesus has brought you out of darkness into a light, saved you, put you in a place where you can be a blessing to so many other people and get blessed in the process. Can you hate someone so much that you don't want to share with them? Can you hate somebody so much you let them keep you from coming to church, from working in the church, from giving your gift back to God, to being used by God? Can your hatred for people be so strong that you think you can run from God, but you can't hide?
Jonah was not afraid of going to Nineveh because he thought he would fail. He wasn't afraid. As a matter of fact, he knew he was going to succeed. And that's what drove him in the opposite direction. That God had put so much in him to share with the people, and he knew what he was going to tell them was going to work. You see, James, every once in a while, you got to see this big picture God is showing you, and it looks enormous to you, and you think it is above your head and more than you can handle, but God chose you for the purpose, and then he equipped you for the purpose. You got to remember that. When he chooses, he equips. When he sends, he prepares. Everything. Apparently, Jonah forgot the words of David. I don't know if he knew them by then or what, but I'm pretty sure he'd heard. David said, where can I flee from your presence, God? Where can I go where you're not going to be there? If I go in the mountains, you're there. If I go in the valleys, you're there. If I go in under the water, wherever I go, where can I go and escape your presence? Jonah should have remembered that, because there's nowhere we can run where God can't find us. We can run, but we can't hide. God knows exactly where you are and what he equipped you to do and what he expects you to do. He knows. Omniscient God. He knows it all. In light of God's omniscience, in light of God's omnipresence, it's easy to wonder sometimes why Christians today attempt to run from the Lord. Jonah certainly demonstrated that it could not be done, yet so many people today still insist on trying to run from God. And the question is why? I have to ask that question, why? And I'm going to answer for me in a minute, because I know how to talk to me. Why do we do that? Sometimes we do it out of pure selfishness. I'm not saying this applies to any one person or anybody in particular, but sometimes we do it out of pure selfishness. Jonah was selfish and didn't want to share God with people he didn't like. We believe we know what's best for us, regardless of what God says. Sometimes we stop and not start out of simple fear. We worry that we just might be successful, and it might cost me more than I'm ready to pay. And then they might be afraid that people are going to criticize you for putting forth this great effort to serve your awesome God. And sometimes we just fail to think, or we think too much, that's a better word, on what it's going to cost me. Let me tell you something. When God chooses you for a purpose and sends you to a place, God has already determined what the outcome is going to look like. It's not your responsibility to figure out the when, the where, and the how. Your responsibility is, yes, Lord, I'll go. If you can still use me, if you still want me, if you need me, whatever you got, yes, Lord, I'll go. That's what we have to do. Jonah paid a price for his rebellion, and it was more than he ever anticipated. But here's the part I want you to focus on. Jonah didn't just risk his life. He put the lives of other people in jeopardy when he chose to run from God and board a ship going in the opposite direction. He put the lives of everybody on that boat in jeopardy because of his disobedience and his desires not to serve God. He overlooked two essential things that I want you to write these down, because we need to remember these. Two things Jonah forgot when he decided to run in the wrong direction. First of all, he incorrectly assumed that fleeing from God would release him from what he had to do. Hold that thought. He thought running from God would release him from his calling. He never imagined in his life how persistent God can be when he want to get his way. How persistent God will be to equip and prepare you when you get that call to duty. Eventually, Jonah found that God would pursue us and would pursue him and us, and he's going to do it in love, even if he has to go to the depths of the sea. And sometimes we jump in the water to keep from drowning. And it's just as silly as a frog sitting on a log. And when the rain starts, he jumps in the water to keep from getting wet. Figure that one out. In order for us to conform to God's will and to his plan that he has for us, God will not stop at nothing until you've accomplished that which he's given to you. You can run, but you can't hide. God simply will not be deterred by our disobedience, because he'll use that as a, people would say, come to Jesus meeting and explain to us who's in charge, who's doing the calling and the sending, and who's saying, yes, Lord, I'll go. The second thing Jonah didn't think of, he forgot that disobeying God only leads to destruction. It's never going to lead to victory. It's never going to lead to blessings and success. Disobedience leads to destruction. And that destruction is of ourselves and not anyone else. Every once in a while, somebody else may get caught in your mess, but the destruction is on you. When God wants to use us to bless somebody else, we can't get so caught up in our feelings that we don't do what God has called us to do. Too many people today are missing blessings upon blessings because they don't like the person God sent them to work with. They don't like the person God sent them to work under. They don't like the person that's going to help him get to where they need to be. They lose so much, never realizing God has a plan. Once you give your life to Christ, how many people go around saying, I can do what I want to, it's my life? No, it is not your life. You have been bought with a price, and if you're a Christian, you are not your own. You belong to him, and he has the authority to use you any way he chooses, because he's going to give you everything you need to be successful and to just live the life God created you to live. You can't sin against God without paying a terrible price and hurting other people in the process. And whether you know it or not, disobedience is a sin. So you want to strike through that one and say, we're not going that route anymore. We're choosing to obey God. Even when it hurts, we are choosing to obey God. Even when it makes me do something I don't want to do, even then, obedience is better than sacrifice. You can run, but you can't hide. At some point in time, you're going to have to come to God and surrender and give your all to him, because he want to use you in a way that's going to be a blessing to so many other people. Can you be so rebellious against God that you take blessings and just cast them aside because of your disobedience? Despite these awful realities that we're talking about, it is also true that God is willing to forgive. You got to remember that. Yes, God does forgive, but forgiveness doesn't always get us off the hook. There's still a price we have to pay. He kept after Jonah as long as it was necessary for Jonah to respond in obedience. Can we stop? Can we dwell right there for a moment? He stayed in pursuit of Jonah until Jonah realized running was crazy. He couldn't hide from God. Even when they threw him off the boat into the water, he, instead of drowning, God said, put a big fish down there big enough to swallow him so he could stay alive, long enough to know he could run, but he couldn't hide. Where can you go to get away from God? And then the crazy question is, why would you want to? If you've had a face-to-face with God, why would you want to run anywhere when you've seen and had an opportunity to listen to this marvelous creator that we have, who thought so much of you that he picks you out of the crowd to use? Isn't it us that owe God everything? Yet he works so hard to get us in place to serve him. Wow. Jonah did not want the people of Nineveh to hear that God was coming to save them. He did not want the people of Nineveh to get a relationship with this awesome God who's looks beyond our faults, and blesses us at the point of every need. Just like God chased Jonah to the bottom of the sea, he will chase you just as far. If he has called you, your job is to surrender. You don't worry about where you're going. He didn't tell Abraham where he was going. He just said, go. He's not going to always tell you what you want, but obedience will make him tell you everything you need to succeed wherever he sends you. He'll open a door. Nobody can walk through that door but you. I don't care how wide it is or how long it stay open. That's your door. That's your opportunity to be a bold witness for him in a place where people need to hear. And we got to quit being so selfish. Just, well, they didn't ask me first. They didn't take me. When God gets ready for you, nobody can stop that. Nobody wants to stay at the bottom forever. But sometimes you got to stay at the bottom of the sea until God comes to get you. And then when you come out, you're ready. All I'm asking you to do today is to be obedient to God and leave the consequences, the results to him. That's all you got to do. Obey God and leave all of the consequences, no matter what's going to happen, no matter what it looks like, no matter who you have to work with, no matter who you have to preach with, teach with, sing with, pray with, it doesn't matter. You leave the results to God and just be obedient. We serve a God who fills heaven and earth. Everywhere we are, there he is. Don't think he wasn't there when we were doing the dirt last night. He was seeing it, watching it, and he's going to clean us up from it when it's time for us to go. He was there long before you ever got there. You think you just arrived at this place because God showed up when you showed up. God was there long before you, preparing the place for you. You get in a dark place where you can't hear a word from God, where it's so quiet until the silence is deafening. You got to remember this. God is preparing that place for you to go. He's creating that atmosphere so that when he moves you to that next level, you're not only ready for it, but the place is ready. The level is ready for you. Remember that. He got to get you ready for the next level, but he also has to prepare the next level so that, because when Jonah went to the people that he hated, that he didn't want to share, the king of that nation called for a 3-day fast just so that they could be ready for God. God had already touched that king's heart, and he knew that once he heard the word, then not only was he going to believe, but his whole nation was going to believe. And Jonah saved the nation by just being obedient. Who are we holding hostage today because we won't be obedient to what God is telling us? Who's missing out on manifold blessings because we refuse to go stand in that place God created for us? Because let me tell you something. What God is getting ready to do in Canton, Mississippi right now, I promise you, years from now, somebody going to know and say for sure, I can swear God was here. Just like Peter said on the Mount of Transfiguration, we know God was here. You're going to see that happen right here. We serve a God who can do everything, and all we have to do, this is where I want you to buckle down. We have to obey God in everything he commands us to do, and he can and will bless us no matter where he tells us to go. Can I get a witness? Somebody to say, I'll go, Lord. Yes, Lord, I'll go. If you still need me, I'll go. If you still want me, if you can still use me. I know I fail sometimes. I know I didn't do it all the time. I know I didn't pray all the time. But if you still want me, yes, Lord, I'll go. I wish I had a witness out there, somebody to hit that chat box and say, hey, Pastor, I'm going, I am going. Because here's what you got to remember. Ask yourself this question. Did Jonah deserve a second chance to carry out the assignment God gave him after being disobedient and running in the opposite direction? Did he deserve it? I'm going to see what your answer is, because I'm going to tell you what mine is. No, he did not deserve it. And neither do we deserve God's mercy and his grace every time we fail him. But God is a merciful God. God is a gracious God, a good God. And when he uses those moments of disobedience, when we turn to obedience and start following after him, he takes those moments of disobedience and he uses them to shape us, to mold us, to be in the likeness of his son, Jesus, whom he called us to be like. We are to emulate him in everything we do. So let your past be your shaping block. Let your past be your molding block. Let your life behind you be a testimony to the change God is bringing in your life right now. Jeremiah put it better than anybody. He said, God showed him the potter sitting at the wheel. And he put the clay on the potter's wheel and he turned, Jeremiah chapter 18, when he turned this, every time he turned it, he knocked something off that wasn't ready, wasn't fit, wasn't worthy. Every time we go disobedient and we do repent and come back to God, he takes those things that we were disobedient about and he turns them and he uses them to create this marvelous vessel that you are, chosen for this assignment because nobody else could do it but you. Don't let your disobedience rob you of the joy of having a conversation with God in the stillness of the night or in the early morning. Don't let your disobedience rob you of being a servant of the Most High God. All right, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you got that, because there again, I came on and I told you I was going to talk to Pastor Allen today because Pastor Allen had been going through something, and God reminded him, I can still use you. You just need to say yes, Lord. And my answer is yes, Lord. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you had a great time today. I hope I said something that's going to encourage you to seek the Lord better, to search his word out for instructions, for guidance. And when God gives you everything that you think that he wants you to have, God's going to send you. And it's your job to go, be obedient, and get her done. God is so good. We look forward to you joining us tonight here in the building. We got Bible study at 7 p.m. tonight. And if you're out of town and you are visiting friends and family someplace else, or if you live someplace else, join us on our Facebook page, Harvest of Hope Christian Center and Campus, at 7 o'clock tonight. That's Central Daylight Time. Those of you in the Eastern, Virginia, North Carolina, those areas, Georgia, you in the Eastern, you know that. It's going to be 8 o'clock for you. So eat early, stay up a little late. We got a great Bible study tonight. We're talking about Isaiah, and we're introducing people to the other side of God. So join us tonight, 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Bible study right here in the building, 3091 South Liberty Street, or join us online on our Facebook page, Harvest of Hope Christian Center and Campus. And don't forget, Thursday morning, we'll be right back with Biblical Principles again. And then Sunday morning, we're going to be in the building. It's going to be a praise party up in here Sunday. I'm encouraging you now. Go ahead and make your plans to be here Sunday, because I have a feeling that the roof is going to come off Sunday. God bless you. May heaven smile upon you. I love you, and I am going to be obedient and tell you everything God said, because I want you to enjoy the goodness of the Lord. Have an amazing day. Have a great day. Call somebody. Tell them you love them, and then pray for somebody else. Thank you. God bless you. We'll see you on the other side.